Hi, welcome along. We're here at Soccer X, and I've got a very special guest, Nedum Onuoha.
Good to see you, sir.
I don't know if I should be shaking his hand, man. Ex-Man City, right? Big Man City, right? And I'm still hurting. And you know what, Nedum? I remember the last time I saw you was, probably 6 weeks ago? It was at BBC.
Yeah.
And we were talking in it about the run-in and everything like that. And you said that it's going to be really, really close. That's what you said. You said despite Arsenal's difficult running, it's going to be really, really close. But I remember you saying, but Pep.
Yeah.
And you were right.
Yeah. Do you know what? I kind of said that, but I was also talking about it through the sort of like Arsenal lens, because from being someone associated with Man City, by extension, it means that I didn't want Arsenal to win. Not because I don't like Arsenal. Because say when I was younger, Arsenal were like my second team.
Yeah.
Outside of watching City, watching Thierry Henry, icon for me, Ian Wright, icon for me, Vieira's, Gilberto's, all these guys. I wanted City to do it, but as I watched Arsenal, I thought they were amazing. Defensively, in attack, they were at the time, this was before the home game against Aston Villa, I thought they were the best side in the league.
Yeah.
Obviously, going into the future, you wonder whether they're going to be able to like win all those games to see out the season. But I didn't see a game where I thought they'll struggle there. Even I think the last time I actually saw you was when you were going to Old Trafford for that game, because I saw you when I was leaving the car park.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And even that game, what I liked about Arsenal is the fact that they've got the flair, but they're tough.
Yeah.
Which is something that most people never would have said about Arsenal.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, these guys are good. Obviously, I had belief in City because they've done it before. But City needed help to have the chance to put it into their hands. And I think probably yourself and others were surprised when it happened.
Yeah, the Villa game.
Because that was the same day it happened to Liverpool as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's the difference. When you look at a season and it can come down to one game, I think it shows how high the bar has been for City, for Liverpool's in years gone by, unfortunately.
Yeah. And this guy's still here, man. I want him to go. Listen, I love Pep, right? But he's just relentless, isn't he?
Do you know what? He is, but I think now there's a lot to it's the players as well, because as you've seen and as we see all the time through like the Premier League, a manager can have the right intent, but if the players don't have that delivery, then you fail. You know, and it's not to say that these guys aren't good players, because they're really good players. Yeah, so with Pep, it's not to... He is relentless and he's got massive drive, he's got a good team around him, and I think for the players as well, they match that ambition. I think that's the thing that's key, and I think he's very good at pushing them, but then he's also very good at giving them time to breathe as well.
Yeah.
I think Guardiola today is a different manager to how he was 7-8 years ago when he first came to City, which is very different to how he was when he first started as a manager. And I think you see that with managers as they get more and more experience. So he is relentless.
Yeah.
But then the team probably also end up having more days off than other teams that will be in a similar position, because it's not just physical fatigue, it's that mental fatigue.
Yeah.
And I think when he can give people a chance to still be themselves, then the end of the season is tough, but they're ready for it. I think that's the key thing.
As a Man City man, I mean, Phil Foden,
the boy,
what an incredible year he had. Player of the season, the best player at City this, and that takes some doing when you've got Rodri there, you've got Haaland there, you know, De Bruyne. I mean, he really stepped up, isn't he? And how important is he going to be for us in the Euros?
That's a good question. I'll start with the Euro side of things. I think with England, you could see, like, whether people like Southgate or they don't, the players are still there nonetheless. And Southgate has options. I don't think he's got a ton of really defensive-minded options to go and try and park a bus. I think he's got more offensive options, to the point where it almost feels like he doesn't have too many, but they're like big questions to be asked. Because say if you've seen Foden be good this season, you've seen him be good centrally. All right, so if you play him centrally, who is he playing alongside? Well, is it going to be a Bellingham? Because we've seen him be very good at playing like that sort of like false 9 at times for Real Madrid. You know, that could work. But then do you want a team that is so much on the front foot that you sometimes leave yourself open on the other side of things? So I think it could be important, but so could Saka, so has to be Kane, so has to be whoever's on the left-hand side, so does Bellingham, so does Rice. So it's tough, because I don't think...
Where would you play?
I'd play him centrally, or if I was to play him high on the right, I'd play him with a fullback that's going to bomb forward so that he can come inside.
Yeah.
But again, that only works in a team where you're going to have more possession than the opposition by quite a bit, because you need the time and structure to be able to do it. Is that something that happens in the later rounds? I'm not sure. In the group stage, I think it can. And then to go to the way he was at City, a year ago, City were just about to play in an FA Cup final, just about to play in a Champions League final. But one of the names that wasn't first on the team sheet was Phil Foden. Phil Foden was out. You had Bernardo Silva on the right, Grealish on the left. You had Gundogan and De Bruyne playing as the 10s. You had Rodri playing as the 6. So Phil Foden, the star boy that we see today, he was maybe first or second sub. And I remember speaking to him when the season was out, and he was hugely proud of the success that they had in the season. Their first Champions League, winning the 3rd Premier League title, doing a treble. But there was still something personally missing for him because he wasn't as big a part of it as he would wish to be.
Yeah.
Like he played in the Champions League final because De Bruyne got injured.
Yeah.
He didn't play because he was starting. So he went away in the summer and he had a drive to come back and be more important for this team. And obviously De Bruyne being injured, it meant he started some games centrally. But look at the way he took control of that.
Yeah, he's got to start for England. I mean,
so where would you start him?
I'll start him there in the midfield. I'd start what you said there, Bellingham, because you've got Bellingham who can sort of box to box. You've got Foden there. Then you've got Declan Rice. Declan Rice can.
That's your 3.
That's my 3.
And then
because Declan Rice just sit him a bit deeper.
Do you not think with Declan now, kind of as you've seen with Arsenal, he does have attacking potential as well?
He does, but then Bellingham's got that. So I'd say because I've seen Declan this season play 2 roles. So I've seen him play that 6 where he's just, the DM in front of the back 4. And I see him play further forward as well. Sort of when Partey came back, he played further forward later on in the season.
Prefer?
I did prefer him.
See, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
But he can play there, and I just feel you've got to have Foden in the team.
Yeah.
I want to see England attack. I don't want to see us just conservative with the.
Yeah.
I know it's a tournament. I know what you're saying.
I know what you're saying.
The attacking options, and then I want to see. You want to see Saka there, and I'd like to see even Cole Palmer and them guys involved as well.
Is international football attacking football?
It's a mixture, isn't it?
It's not really, in my opinion. And the reason I say this is because even some of the best teams that we remember, they don't have floods of attack. They don't have tons of attackers out there.
Yeah.
The team that did in the last World Cup was Germany. Oh, not Germany. It was Brazil. Who played a 4-2-4, and they got knocked out by Croatia because Croatia had 3 in midfield.
Yeah.
And those 3 in midfield, they're dictate tempo. They're not all attackers. They're ballers. And I think with international football, there's the players you're playing against are the best for their nation. And so, as well as having the best attackers, the other teams will have some of the better defenders, some of the best defensive strategies, and they're harder to break down. And very often, it's 1 goal that decides something, not 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. So I want to see them be as attacking as they can.
Yeah.
But the team you're playing against is always good enough to hit you on the break and score. And then from when that's the case, tournament football, it might be one and done.
Gareth Southgate's under a lot of pressure though for this tournament because we've come close in other tournaments, we haven't done it. And then I was looking at yesterday, we've got the German Player of the Year in Harry Kane. We've got the English Player of the Year in Phil Foden. We've got the Spanish Player of the Year in Jude Bellingham.
Yeah.
So people are just looking at that and saying, right, come on now.
Yeah, I think
you need to go all the way.
The perspective that I have with it, because I like Gareth Southgate. I know that upsets a few people, but I'm not really too fussed because I think I've supported this England team more than any other.
No, he's done a great job. Yeah.
And the fact that at times he'd throw in at the start of his tenure, throw in younger players and be questioned.
Yeah.
But then compare that to say 20 years ago when it was always a certain type of player who were rivals with each other, who didn't get along, and they wanted to do well for England, but sometimes, if they didn't. Well, who was to blame? Oh, it's a red. Oh, it's United. It's this. You know what I mean? So I think Southgate knows that he can win this tournament. I think the players do as well. So that pressure is a very unique one for England overall because in the past we've thought, well, maybe they could because they've got this, because they've got that. The ambition that the nation have is the same as the ambition that the players have, the same that the manager has. And I won't be surprised if Southgate doesn't do it. If he doesn't just walk away himself because he knows that he should be winning this tournament. And it sounds like a nuts thing to say considering it's been 66 since the last won something.
Yeah.
But they know they're good enough. And that's why they're going to approach it in a way which is designed for them to find a route to the final, to give themselves the chance to do it and to just get ahead of it again.
Who's winning it though?
I think they could win it. I genuinely think they could do, and I'm looking forward to watching them try and do it.
Yeah.
Because I know that, as you've mentioned, the Spanish Player of the Year, the German Player of the Year, the English Player of the Year.
Yeah.
That's an exciting team. And they'll all be out. Those 3 guys will be out there.
Yeah.
There's no hiding on the bench. They will be out there. And again, as I said, to go back to it, I think the further we get away from the last Euros, the more that some people forget how it ended.
Yeah.
Because for as much as England didn't perform great on the day, They're a penalty shootout away from saying they're 2 European champions.
Yep.
And if that was the case and they won that, how would we talk about the same performance, or we only talk about the outcome?
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Just leave that there.
You know what? You're. I know that you're speaking today. You're speaking straight after this interview here at SoccerX, and you're talking about lots of like player burnout,
so,
right?
yeah.
Which is really interesting because I took a look at the season coming up. You got the Euros.
Yep.
You got Copa America.
Yeah.
Right, all on at the same time. Then you got all the, like, I look at Arsenal, for instance, and Man United and Liverpool. I know that because we're playing them with big tours over in America.
Yeah.
Then they come back. Then they go straight into the season. The Champions League this year is a longer format.
Yep.
Right, so more games in that. You got the League Cup. You got the FA Cup. You got, are these players gonna handle all that? I mean, and is that what you're talking about in your talk?
It is what I'm talking about, but even to extend that further, there's the Club World Championship thing.
There's that as well, yeah. The club.
Have you
the
seen
FIFA?
have you seen the dates for that potentially? So that tournament starts in the middle of June and it runs to the middle of July. And that summer, if you think about it, this is particularly important for nations who have a season that goes from August through to May. Because when if an English team, for example, to make it super specific to England, not so that every fan has to be from England or whatever, the Champions League final next year is the first week in June. So if you play in that, you've then got 2 international fixtures the week after, which is World Cup qualifiers. And then when they're done, is when your club could take you to America for this tournament that lasts 30 days, which would finish, if you made it to the final, the middle of July. So that season before has never ended.
It's insane.
It's never ended. But as we all know, the middle of July is when people are already halfway through their pre-seasons, because the start of the season is 2-3 weeks away.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to have a break if your team wants to try and value that tournament and give it its best chance. But that means players play all this season, and as you said yourself, Copa America, European Championships. Finish the season, you've probably finished with 60 games anyway, because you've also played international games in that time.
Yeah.
Then you play 2 more international games, then you play potentially 6 more club games. And then when you come back for the next season, every international break from then is for a World Cup qualifier.
So
the World Cup,
it's serious games.
Serious games, which then starts the next summer, the World Cup. So this block of 2 years is probably the most dense we've seen in our lifetimes. And I think today as well, we're talking about burnout as in football for like football fans, not just players.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, for me as a football fan, I love watching football. So I never complain about seeing it on my TV. But I think the side from the players, from the staff, because as well, like players play, but the staff follow them. The staff work those hours to make sure they have the same opportunities. They travel around there away from their families.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but when it's so many governing bodies, they're pulling up these games as opposed to one centralised like thought process.
Yeah.
Then everyone wants their slice. But that cake just seems to be getting bigger and bigger.
But FIFA, they've got the World Cup coming up. And then they've gone and put this competition in there. I mean, what do they expect the players to do? How are players going to manage it? I mean, we already saw loads of injuries last season.
Yeah.
And people are already talking about it and saying, well, is that to do with the amount of games, you know?
I think the only power that clubs have who've qualified for it, because they're entitled to play, is to not put out their strongest teams. But then that will discredit the tournament itself.
Yeah, and those are going to be big games, aren't they, in America?
People are going to sniff it, and I think some of the teams that will go, they're working on a January through to like November calendar anyway for games. So they'll be the ones who'll be more likely to do well in this tournament.
Yeah.
And the tournament itself, in time, it could make sense, but in its location, in its format, for teams who play that traditional calendar that we know, they'll never be able to take it seriously because there's a level of play care that needs to be in there.
What may happen is what we've seen over the years: League Cup, FA Cup. You're going to see lots of kids playing in those games.
I think as well to link this to one of your rivals. Postecoglou was criticised for making changes for the Spurs team that got knocked out, I think, to Fulham in the Carabao Cup last season. Yeah. Because they believe this should have been the way that we, as Spurs fans, win something for the first time since 2008. But if they're going to have players in it, for example, who are going to play 70, 80 games in a season, like, the changes are going to happen. And unfortunately, you can't be on the same page with the fan base who want you to win. Like, when you see your team walk out, you want the strongest possible team, and you want them to win. And at times you would say, it's okay, it's probably done as a favour, but deep down, if you get to the end of the season, like,
Yeah.
as crazy as it may seem, like, as I say, I think Arsenal are brilliant. But they've had nothing to show for the brilliance
Nothing
of
to
the
show
last
for
2
it, and
years.
United have got
Exactly.
an FA Cup. So.
And it's like a weird conversation to have because it's like one team was in crisis, with the other one was in the ascendancy. But at the end of the season, what's more important?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think you just got to go trophies. I think.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to wrap up because I know you've got to go and give
Yeah,
that
I've got
talk.
to
I
go
know it's
talk
to be
some more
late.
talk, yeah.
But listen, it's been great speaking to you. Keep up the good work. You're going to be out there at the Euros?
No. I've been benched for this one. My service is not required. But it's all right. I'll be back.
All right. Listen. Take care.
Pleasure, brother. Thank you.
Nice one, man.